know that you think you're the coolest one in town, but to me you'll be much cooler when you're 6 feet on the ground. Some of us are crazy, some are smart and brave. Well, it doesn't really matter, we all end up in the grave. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. I said all my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead.
Okay. And here we are for another episode of All My Favorite People Are Dead. So dead.
Dead. Dead as a doornail, dead.
Dead.
Not coming back.
Never. So, again, my special guest today, oh my goodness, who I love to have, and who I think should definitely, just stay permanently.
Okay.
I'll just lock you up in my little closet.
Okay, Shannon.
And you can stay.
Oh, I can stay?
And I'll just give you lots of books of people to read and then talk about. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And occasionally, give you some food.
Meal.
Share some kibble.
Little water. Litter box.
Suzanne Turrisi.
Oh, yay. Thank you for that. All the way from my kitchen.
Yeah. Where we had some very excellent vegan meatballs.
Thank you. Yes,
they were very good.
Yes,
I never would have known.
See? You never know what I can feed you.
Yeah.
I could be like Mrs. Lovett with the meat pie. You don't know.
That would be...
Could be the vicar.
Whoa.
Or could be...
The vicar.
The vicar. You know the vicar.
Could be the rabbi.
Could be the rabbi. Could be the vicar. Could be soy.
So, probably soy.
Soy. Not a soy rabbi.
Or cat.
Cat, the other white meat.
You have a really fat cat on your lap right now.
I do. Isn't he a big floof?
He's such a big floof. Yeah. So last week it was my dogs, now it's your cats.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Animals are welcome.
Oh, absolutely. We like animals like we like dead people.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, you got a good point there. That's true.
So, we've got a special Halloween episode this week. 'Tis the season, right?
Always.
And we've chosen two interesting characters who gave us the chills and the thrills.
That's
and
right. Make you think.
Yeah, make you think.
Sit on the edge of your seat and go, what the hell?
Yeah. We like it. So I'm going to let you go first.
So when I tell you the name Rod Serling,
Serling,
what is the first thing that pops into your mind?
A guy with a cigarette in black and white on a TV.
You got it. Dee. Right, everybody does the theme, right?
Yeah.
You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of the imagination. Your next stop, wait for it, the Twilight Zone.
Whoa.
All right. Even after all these years, most of us weren't even born when the show originally aired. The first season was in 59 and went for 5 seasons until 64, and neither you nor I were even, so, it has that kind of lasting impact for those of us who came a generation later.
Yeah.
That stood the test of time.
I'm like 2 generations later.
Yeah. I'm like a week later, but even still. But I grew up with it in syndication.
Yes.
I remember watching it long after, but even still, it still had an impact on my childhood, that exposure to science fiction and making you think. It was. Yeah. I think it's still a big deal because it stood the test of time.
Sure.
So you want to know a little about Rod Serling?
I want to know a lot about Rod.
I'm going to tell you everything you need to know.
Great. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Rodman Edward Serling was born into a Jewish family in Syracuse. He's one of my boys.
Oh, he's a New Yorker.
He's a New Yorker
right.
On December 25th, 1924. He says he was a Christmas present that was delivered unwrapped. Quote.
But okay.
Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah, he was born on Christmas, the 25th.
Right. Okay.
He had an older brother, Robert. His father, Samuel Lawrence Serling, was a wholesale meat dealer, and his mom, Esther. He was an outgoing kid, a big extrovert, popular, articulate, and good-looking and outspoken. He wasn't arrogant, just very confident. All this was according to his brother, Bob.
Okay.
He was an editor of his high school newspaper. The day he graduated high school, he enlisted in the Army, 11th Airborne Division paratroopers.
Oh.
Yeah. During basic training, he was a boxer. He took up boxing, winning 17 out of 18 bouts.
Impressive.
Impressive considering he was a flyweight and he was only 5'4".
Oh, I didn't realize he was so short.
He was a Lilliputian like me. Yes. After basic training, he was sent to combat in the Pacific. In 45, while he was fighting in the Philippines, he found that his father died at 52 of a heart attack.
Ouch.
Foreshadowing. He was injured as a paratrooper with shrapnel in his wrist and his knee, requiring hospitalization.
Okay.
He says he was bitter about everything. The war, his dad, the shrapnel, the whole bit. And he turned to writing to get everything off his chest. So after getting discharged, he enrolls in Antioch, tomatoes. Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio, on the GI Bill.
Okay, yeah.
The reason he went to that college? Bob went there, his brother, so he followed his brother. He majored in literature and language. Now, at this point, Rod had written scripts for the Armed Service Radio. He became manager of the Antioch Broadcasting Systems Radio Workshop, where he wrote, directed, and acted in their weekly productions, which were broadcast over Radio WJEM Springfield.
Oh, okay.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, doing good so far.
His time in the war helped shape his political views. During his military service, Private Serling was awarded the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, and the Philippine Liberation Medal.
That's a lot.
That's a lot in that time for, brave guy.
Not bad.
His combat experiences, like most veterans, affected him deeply and influenced much of his writing. It left him with nightmares and flashbacks for the rest of his life after seeing death every day in the Philippines.
War is hell.
War is hell, yeah. In 1946, he met Carolyn Kramer, and she was a little intimidated because he had the reputation of being quite a ladies' man.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Well, I can see that.
Yeah, he's good-looking, charismatic. Sure, why not? Yeah. They were married in 1948. Their marriage lasted until his death 27 years later.
Oh, she didn't have to worry, did she?
Not at all.
All
Not
right.
at all. Okay. That's it. And they had 2 daughters, Jody and Ann. So I guess that was the extent of his ladies' man, his girls and his wife.
Okay, well, good for him. That's a good
man,
yeah.
family man.
Yeah.
So Rod was doing many radio shows, but he felt radio wasn't living up to its potential.
Okay.
He said there were very few radio writers who would be remembered for their literary contributions. Now they had this new medium, this new industry. I believe it was called television.
Oh, yeah, that thing.
And that right at the right time. So he moved from radio to TV, getting a job as a writer for WKRC TV in Cincinnati, writing scripts, freelancing, and eventually he left WKRC and just did freelance writing in 52 full-time, just doing his own thing.
Okay.
He wrote for some prevalent TV shows, like there was the Kraft Television Theater. That was a big deal back then. He got an agent, and he moved to New York, where the action is.
Okay.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
So now he's writing for Kraft. He writes an episode called Patterns. Patterns dealt with the struggle between a corporate boss running out of energy and ideas and the executive being groomed to take his place.
Okay.
That kind of dynamic. It got high praise from viewers and from producers alike. Offers are now pouring in. Who wrote that great episode and made us all think? Tell me more about this guy. He then wrote Requiem for a Heavyweight. Did you ever read that? Requiem for a Heavyweight. I read that. That was it was a book. It was a short story, and eventually became a film.
I thought he wasn't a heavyweight.
Yeah, right.
I thought he was a skinny guy.
He was a little. Well, that's his alter ego, I guess. He wrote it for Playhouse 90 and 56, but in 62 became a popular movie with knockout. Get it? Knockout performances. Okay. Humor pity. That's all right. Mom jokes. Anthony Quinn, Jackie Gleason, and Mickey Rooney. I did see the movie. If you ever get a chance,
I have not.
Anthony Quinn plays the boxer, and it's pretty good. It's a very good film, obviously.
So it was written by him.
Yeah, he wrote Requiem, and that became like a big thing. Like it became like its own entity, separate from the Twilight Zone or any of these shows.
When was this?
It became a movie in 62, but he wrote it for Playhouse 90 and 56, and then it just took off.
Okay.
All right. It became a fabulous film. But Rod was getting a little frustrated by censorship now, working with these big companies, right? He's forced to change scripts after corporate sponsors found something too controversial, or it made them look bad to consumers, or dealt with contemporary social issues. He didn't want to deal with the BS, right? For example, there was a line in the script that read, "Got a match?" But that was deleted because one of the sponsors was Ronson Lighters.
Oh, that's annoying.
So if your corporate sponsor is a lighter, you can't say "got a match" or other things, and he had to keep changing it for them, which, isn't his bag. He's like, "This is the way I'm writing it. Don't change it." Stuff like that.
Okay.
So eventually he did what probably I would have done. He said, "Screw this," and decided the only way to avoid artistic interference was go create your own show.
Absolutely.
Right? I'm out of here.
Yeah.
In an interview with Mike Wallace, Rod Serling said that he got tired of having to battle the sponsors and the agencies and settle for second best. So he did a pilot called The Time Element for CBS for a new show that he called The Cat's in Your Bag.
The cat's in your... No, that's not what the show was called. But
No, but my cat is in her bag.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Please, it's not...
Please,
that's not...
Okay, we are experiencing operating difficulties.
As long as you don't turn it into a litter
It's
box,
not going to fall.
we're fine.
Yeah, all right. Well, okay, cat's in the bag.
Cat's in the bag. Quite literally.
Alrighty then. We are experiencing cat difficulties here.
Are you comfortable?
What happens when... Oh, he makes a living.
If it fits...
If I sits, I fits.
If
I fits, I
fits,
fits.
yeah.
Good. What do your dog smell that?
You're very cute in my bag. Okay. Anyway, so the name of the show actually was...
The Twilight Zone.
Ah!
He did a pilot for The Time Element for his new show, The Twilight Zone. But, get a load of this, CBS used that script for a new show produced by Westinghouse Desilu Playhouse in 58.
Desilu Playhouse,
So,
as in...
Desi and Lucy. Yeah,
okay,
yeah, Desi
okay.
on it, right?
Yeah.
So they had a separate show. They used that script for that rather than his own show.
Okay.
Okay? It's about a man who had vivid nightmares about Pearl Harbor. And it had a twist ending, which is his calling card, right?
Okay.
The episode had so much feedback that CBS agreed now Serling can go on with a pilot for his new show, The Twilight Zone. Like, they weren't sure. I guess they said, this is a great episode, but not for your own show. We'll try it somewhere else.
Okay.
And it was such a hit, they said, fine, Rod, now do a pilot. So,
Okay.
Twilight Zone premiered on October 2nd, 1959 on CBS. Rod Serling fought very hard to keep control and to have creative freedom. He hired scriptwriters that he respected, like Charles Beaumont and Richard Matheson. I'm a big fan of the show, and I know these writers. It's always something that makes you think, go into the next level,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Many episodes did deal with Rod's own experience in boxing, in military life, and as an airplane pilot. Mm-hmm. It was showcased as a science fiction format without dealing with network executives, and he was able to escape censorship because it wasn't on Playhouse 90 anymore. Now it's his own deal on CBS.
Okay.
Went for 5 seasons. 3 were half hour, then they went to 1 hour. That didn't fly. Then the last season was half hour again.
Okay.
156 episodes, had a loyal following, but in 64 it was finally canceled. They were going to cancel, then they renewed it, and then finally they were done.
Okay.
Rod sold the rights to CBS because he thought his own production company, Cayuga Productions, could never recoup the production costs of the program, which always went over budget. So
They do seem like mini movies, you
they
know?
do,
Really-
right?
yeah.
There's a very involved.
Yeah. Oh, there's another
There's
cat.
another cat.
Another
There you
cat.
go. What a show. In '83, the Twilight Zone movie came out, and there've been several attempts to revise the Twilight Zone, but nothing.
Right.
Nothing was going to be successful.
No.
Now, in 1969, he did a new series called Night Gallery.
Okay.
You ever hear that?
No,
I've actually seen that. I remember it was like an upgraded version. Went from 69 to 73. Night Gallery was at this point a little more macabre.
Okay.
Similar in that Serling was the narrator. But it was similar but different. It had popular stars of the day, a little more macabre color. Mm-hmm. But, that ran its course as well.
Okay.
Rod eventually continued to keep himself busy with other smaller TV projects, and he produced, he promoted, he taught seminaries on film, on campuses, taught at Ithaca, until his death in 75.
Okay.
So, he was also a heavy smoker, as you said, every episode back there. They were all
Just sitting there. with
having a
smoke.
light,
Yeah. Yeah.
And he smoked 3 or 4 packs a day. Had two heart attacks. The second one requiring open heart surgery, but the third one he had on the operating table, died 2 days later.
Ugh.
Carol, his wife, died at 90, is buried alongside of him. But you know that's the story there. He left an impact on popular culture. One of the things I love about him, the shows dealt with searching for emotional truth, making some attempt to make a statement on the human condition.
Yeah.
Everything dealt with it always. I mean, I remember as a kid being fascinated.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. Like, did you see what was it? I'm going to mess up his name. M. Night Shyamalan.
Shyamalan, yeah.
Shyamalan Ding Dong,
Shyamalan.
whatever his name is. I can't pronounce his name. Did you see The Sixth Sense? Right, that movie's over
I
20
love
years
that.
old, and then you
Yeah.
go, holy crap! You mean he's been dead this whole time?
Yeah, yeah.
That was every Twilight Zone episode. For
Oh,
me.
sure.
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
No way. Yeah. So it makes you think he's an American icon. Really is.
Absolutely.
We were talking before about one of my personal favorites is Beauty in the Eye of the Beholder, which deals with which deals with this woman has surgery on her face, and she's all bandaged, and you kind of see the screen through the bandage. It's like they put the bandage around the lens of the screen, and they take it off, and they go, "Oh my God, you're hideous, you're butt ugly. It's just terrible. The surgery didn't take," and they take all the bandages off, and there's this gorgeous woman, and then the camera pans, and all the doctors and all the people all have pig faces.
Yeah, when you said pig faces, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that episode.
Right?
Yep.
The pig face one.
Yeah.
Where beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Who's ugly? Who's the ugly one? Depends on who's looking.
Right.
Episodes like that, To Serve Man, right? Mm-hmm. It's a freaking cookbook. Where you going? I think like the ending was something like from being a person to being the ingredient in someone's soup. That's how he ends it. To Serve Man was you're at the end. You're like, oh great, they're going to serve man. Yeah, on a plate.
Yeah.
You're his dinner.
I like the one with Mr. Death. It's I think one of the very first episodes actually.
With Robert Redford.
No. This is who's the guy? He's an older guy who's he's a toy. He sells toys and things to kids.
Okay.
And Death shows up, and Death's like, I have to take you tonight at midnight. You're going tonight. Yeah. And he's like, no, you can't take me. You can't. Yeah. He's like, I tell you what, you can take me once I've made the perfect pitch. He's a salesman. Yeah. Once I made the perfect pitch, then you can have me. And so he cheats Death by saying, well, joke's on you, I'm not going to make any more pitches from now on. Right. I'll never die. Right. So he's like, well, then I have to take somebody else. So he takes like one of the little kids that the guy normally sells toys to. Yeah. And so he's like, no, wait, we'll switch it up. And then he ends up actually, Mr. Death is going to take the kid at midnight like he was going to take the guy. And then instead, he distracts Death. The guy, the salesman distracts Death long enough so that midnight comes and goes. He's like, with his pitch. Right. And then Death is like, that was the best pitch ever. You sold me. He ended up like buying all of his stuff, Yeah. So he's like, I guess it's time to go then. Yeah. It was the best pitch ever. He sold Death on it. So it was very good.
It's like the devil goes down to Georgia, when you make a bid with the devil. Yeah. That's what I've always loved about these shows. Do you remember the one, People Are Alike All Over?
People Are Like All Over.
Roddy McDowall.
Okay.
They're astronauts, and Roddy McDowall's terrified. We're going. I don't know where we're going. It's pretty scary. And the guy in the ship says, "Oh, it'll be fine. People are alike all over. It'll be fine." Yeah. And then they crash land, and that guy dies, and Roddy McDowall is the only guy. And he comes out and he meets the aliens who look just like people. Yeah. Oh, come on, you want to have a beer? It's fine. And you know what? We could read your mind. We know what you guys like. We set up a house just for you. And he goes in the house, and and it's great. And then all of a sudden, the next scene, the walls come down, and it's a zoo, and he's in a cage, and there's a sign in front that says "human," and everybody's on the outside looking at him, and he screams out, "You're right, people are alike all over." Because what do we do with our most unique and interesting creatures? You put them in a zoo.
That's true.
So people are alike all over, and the other one, one of my favorites is with Burgess Meredith, Time Enough at Last.
Oh, and that's the one who wants to read a lot,
like you and me. He's a big book guy.
And then his glasses broke.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's a classic.
That's classic.
Yeah.
Time enough at last. He doesn't want to be nagged at his wife. He doesn't want to go to work. Yeah. He just wants a read. And then there's like an apocalypse, and he's like in the stacks of the vault or something. He's the only one left alive. Yeah. He finds all these books. He's good to go. Boom. He breaks his glasses and stuff. Right. And everybody goes, "Oh my God." It can't end like that.
I think my mom said that was her favorite one, too. She's like, I can relate.
Yeah. They're all relatable. They all, I think, deal about the human condition. For something to steal the test of time, to stand the test of time. And for even little ones, I work with kids, and they all, do. I think that that's why he's one of my favorite people who are dead.
Oh, that's a good one.
Good one, right?
Okay, I got a fun side note that I just discovered about him.
Oakley dokley.
Okay, so you know how I am a huge fan of the band Rush.
I did not know that, but so am I.
You know.
Oh, we did have this talk. I'm old. That's right.
No.
That's right. Have we met?
Yeah, no. I know that you had loved Neil Peart, and there's another person I'm sad is gone, and I have to talk to him about him.
Yeah, I love Neil Peart.
So
I'm going to drum like him one day.
I mean, same. We all want to drum like Neil Peart. I would just like to write like Neil Peart because he was a brilliant writer.
And he was very shy. He was a very shy, introverted guy. But yeah, I always admired him.
So clearly, Rush, the band, loved Rod Serling too, because I mean, it makes sense if you look at their early music. So their album, Caress of Steel, which is actually one of their lamer albums. It's not a very good album, but in the album notes inside the album, it said dedicated to Rod Serling.
I did not know that.
Because he had died just a couple of months before.
Oh, whoa, I did not know that.
Yeah. So that's a fun little Rod Serling tidbit I discovered.
When I lived at home, I had a cat named Serling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we named one of the cats. I had a cat. I found her, and she had kittens, and one of the kittens we named Serling.
Nice.
Yeah. And
was he always trying to give you important messages?
He lived in another dimension.
He did? Okay.
He did. He lived in a portal in the bathroom. Went down to the neighbors. But,
that makes sense.
Yeah, no, but I did. Always a huge fan. I always remembered, thinking, and when I constantly watch the Twilight Zone marathons.
So, I forgot. Are those on? Was there either Christmas or Thanksgiving? When are they?
New Year's Eve. I think it's New Year's.
Is it New Year? Oh, you're right. It is New Year's.
I think it's New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We welcome.
Look who's out of the box.
Mambo. Who let the cat out of the box? New Year's Eve, they show, and they show some episodes. They just, I think there's some episodes that I've seen, once or twice in my entire life. Mm-hmm. And then there are some that I can, verbatim.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And, my poor daughter, I would make her stay up. Come on, get up. It's 3 a.m. Come on, don't fall asleep. Talkie Tina's on. I'm Talkie Tina. And she knows them too, like me. And it's, but it's something that you can share.
Bond.
And if I call her up and I say something like, room for one more, honey, and I hang up, she'll laugh, she'll get it. I load the dishwasher like that. I'm like, room for one more, honey. There's always room for one more. Or I'm on the train, Willoughby, this stop is Willoughby. Those things have stuck in my head my entire life, and I laugh silently to myself, which I'm sure disturbs everyone around me. But very, very classic. One of my favorite dead people.
All right, it's a good choice.
Thank you. Yeah. Can't go wrong with Rod Serling.
No. So, are you quite comfortable in that box?
You're not getting the box back there, Shannon.
I guess not.
It has to stay. You just lost it.
So we'll get into my favorite dead person for this week.
Okay.
Which is a nice sort of connection with the sort of the creepy and
make you think.
Make you think kind of vibe. It's Alfred Hitchcock.
I'm pretty sure that's called the Death March of the Marionettes.
I think you're right. Yeah. So known for his suspense, his thrillers, sex, murder.
My kind of guy.
Yeah, there's a little bit of everything, and I've always been fascinated about his movies, but I've never actually taken the time to really read about him as a person. And he's quite the interesting guy.
I can imagine.
Yeah. I spent, I read this book here, Alfred Hitchcock, A Brief Life by Peter Ackroyd. I like Peter Ackroyd's writing. I've read his work on Charlie Chaplin, too, which is really, really good. And I also got a chance to see this documentary, Dial H for Hitchcock.
Oh, very cool.
The genius behind The Showman, which was really, really cool. So
was it Netflix?
Actually, I watched it on YouTube.
Okay,
yeah.
I will check it out.
So anyway, we'll get right into him. The master of suspense, amongst other things. Actually, he didn't really like being called master of suspense, apparently, even though he was.
That's kind of
weird.
He
was, but he had a broad spectrum of skills and movie styles. So, born August 13th, 1899.
Oh, wow.
In the tiny town of Leytonstone. Am I saying this right? Leytonstone?
Sure.
Leytonstone. Yeah,
whatever you say.
But his family had moved pretty quickly on. Oh, are we trying to get the cat's attention?
Yeah, I'm just going to take his picture. I got nothing, It's not like I'm in the middle of a podcast. Or
No.
But he's awfully cute.
He is very cute. I mean, hey, kitty.
Oh, that was a good job. Thank you for that.
It's all about that works.
Yeah.
Anyway, so his family moved to Limehouse, which was a really terrible. Oh, hello.
They jump. They're not like dogs.
Cat just jumped out of the box. Okay. Limehouse was like this nasty, dangerous portion outside of London.
Oh, so he was poor.
No, they weren't poor, per se. I guess that was where his father had a successful business. He was a green grocer, and he also was a fishmonger too. Okay. So the fish was coming in that area. They actually lived on a street called Salmon Lane, which was appropriate.
Well, that would be good if you're a fishmonger. Yeah.
You know,
where would he live if he was a proctologist?
Whoa. Good question.
Is that funny? I'm quick, but I'm bumped.
I like it.
Thank you.
So anyway, he lived with his father, William, and his mother, Emma, and he had two older siblings, Ellen and William. Now, they were very strict Roman Catholic family. And for the most part of his life, it was pretty quiet, pretty nice childhood for the most part. His family called him Alfie, or Fred, depending. But he preferred Hitch. That's what he ultimately went with.
Hitch.
Yeah, Hitch.
Okay.
Now, he never really discussed his childhood to interviewers. There's very few things he would talk about as far as his early years, but he did say that he recalled that he had never cried as a baby. Never cried. But
I'm sure his mother would beg to differ.
Apparently he was easily terrified. Like, easily terrified. Like, if you got too close in his face, like, he would be like, as a child.
Which would explain why he would do psychological thrillers.
Yeah.
Because Stephen King says he writes about things that terrify him.
Oh, and this guy is easily terrified of a lot of things.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that a little bit.
There you go. So he incorporates it.
He had a lot of fears.
That's what they normally... Yeah.
Now, once when he had ventured into the city of London and apparently stayed like a little past his curfew, his father arranged for the local police to put him in a jail cell.
Oh, jeez.
He was just a little kid, just for a few minutes.
To teach him a lesson.
Just to give him a good scare and teach him a lesson.
I'm sure that worked.
But his biographer, Peter Ackroyd, mentioned that in his films, you see a lot of vertical bars, a lot of parallel bars, a lot of dark slashes and shadows.
So obviously that scarred him for life.
I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
But it inspired his theatrical development, right?
As most traumas do.
So he tended to put his own deepest fears on film, right?
Right.
He had admitted being easily scared as a child, easily lost in thought. He had always been kind of like this unattractive, fat little boy. Oh. His father was very strict. His mother was very protective. He went to a very strict Catholic school, which was run by Jesuits. And every day they had a routine, a regiment of cleanliness and protocols to follow, which explains why he always looked very polished in his whole life. Like he was always,
gentleman, too. Don't they all look like that?
Always very posh, right?
Okay, yeah.
Even though he had that what's that Cagney kind of like vibe about him, and his voice and stuff. He considered himself sort of this upper crust, very proper guy,
prim and proper.
He was fascinated with travel as a boy. He loved trains, ships, which is why you see a lot of transportation in his movies. A lot of that.
Okay, yeah.
He actually even had even up into his later years, he would always have like various European bus schedules like in his desks because he was always curious where things were moving and going and what was going on. The priests and the brothers that were at the Catholic school terrified him. Obviously, that's what they do.
Terrified me.
He always had this great fear of authority, like the police or anyone of a higher rank than him. He always was a little bit afraid of.
Wow.
He said that the Jesuits used to terrify me to death with everything, and now I'm getting my own back by terrifying other people. That was a quote from him.
Yeah.
At an early age, he became fascinated by criminal courts and murder cases. I mean, shocker.
Yeah.
Number one, shocker. Number two, same. So around London, there's a lot of that. Like he used to go to Fleet Street. He was fascinated with Jack the Ripper. All that. Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, all that stuff. Some of the cases that he heard about as a child would inspire his movies later on.
Sure.
Now, not surprisingly, but he discovered the work of Edgar Allan Poe when he was 16.
Me too.
And loved his work. Like, totally loved it.
Yeah.
He did serve in World War I for like a hot second, but he was shit at it.
Oh.
So he was considered too fat to do any real fighting, so they gave him sanitary work. So he just kind of like sat around and...
Clean the latrines.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
All right, well, should be getting shot by Nazis.
I mean, seriously, yeah. Oh, although they weren't Nazis at that point. Not yet.
Oh.
World War One.
Oh, World War. I always get them confused.
No, that's all right. I mean, so he began his career in advertising, actually, because he...
what, guns?
No.
Rope?
Rope and knives.
Broken elevator.
Mommy's dresses and wigs.
Yeah.
No, he became a draft artist. He was actually working for this company called the Henley Telegraph. They were actually like a newspaper, essentially. And he was a very talented artist, believe it or not.
I believe it.
So he became interested in writing short stories also around this time period. Then, he had always enjoyed watching movies as a kid. Of course, they were silent movies back then.
Yeah, really.
Then, when Paramount Pictures opened up a studio in London, they were part of Paramount Pictures, but they were like the London branch. He went over and he's like, I want a job. I gotta have a job. Gotta be in the pictures. I'll do whatever you want me to do. So he became a title card designer in 1919. So like the titles in the beginning of the film. There's a cat fight going on.
Literally. Not between she and I.
You guys, you
don't know who wants to go in your box.
You really want to be where the action is today, huh?
They do.
Okay.
Every time I'm on Zoom teaching or whatever, and there's a computer around,
they gotta be right here.
It's like radar.
Yeah. Okay. I thought my dogs were. Well,
I don't know if it's lack of my attention or the heat from the computer.
Oh,
but
yeah.
They have to.
They have to. And they have to make noise and be right next to the microphone. Like, don't fart, kitty cat, because if you do, the whole world's going to hear it.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So anyway, he starts working. And it was right about this time that he met his partner and future wife, Alma Revell, and who was actually kind of like above him in the pay grade at the studio. Oh. Like, she was actually a very talented editor.
Whoa, I thought he didn't like authority figures.
I know. Well, as a matter of fact, that's the funny story is that he didn't want to talk to her for a while because she was higher up than he was.
Look at that.
So he was nervous to talk to her. He wanted to, but he was too nervous.
Wow.
She was a very talented, more experienced in the film industry film editor. Literally cut back in the day when they were cutting and splicing the film together. Okay. Like, that was her thing. She was on the cutting room floor, as they say, quite literally. So he was just designing sets at this time, and he did some work in Germany. Then he goes to Germany in the 1920s and learned the art of fluid camera work over there. And simplistic set design. So he's doing some set designing over there. He directed his first silent film at this point, The Pleasure Garden, in 1925. It was a drama, not a horror. But strangely enough, I guess the art commission at the time were like, "Oh, it's too artsy. We're not going to release it."
Wow, ahead of his time.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, that's not what people want to watch. They want to watch, Charlie Chaplin. They don't this drama shit. No." So he was really disappointed. Yeah, his first film didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
And at this point, he's actually, now that he's kind of directing things.
Experimenting.
He's experimenting, he's directing, and now he's asking Alma to help him out with some things. So now he's got the nerve to ask her. Okay. And then eventually he had the nerve to actually propose to her. And so they were actually coming back over the English Channel, heading back home to England from filming over in Europe. And she was so seasick. Elma was seasick and laying in bed. And he went into her cabin and he's like, "Oh, would you marry me?" And she was so seasick she couldn't even lift her head. She just kind of grunted and burped. And then he's like, "Oh, I'll take that for a yes."
How romantic.
So romantic. I'm like, "Aw.
Will you marry me?"
True love.
Yeah, that's romantic. I've heard of some proposals.
So sweet, right?
Wait until she's not green wasn't an option.
Right. So
she can't say no, she can't run.
Yeah. Alma would actually be like his go-to person for all of his projects. Like she was with him on everything. Oh. She would look over every script, be with him on every project. That he respected her opinion over just about anybody else's. So they were more.
That is romantic.
Yeah. They were really a partnership, and she was with him on a lot of his projects. So his first thriller came out in 1927, and it was entitled "The Lodger: A Story of the London Fog." This story follows...
I have a jacket by London Fog.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Good jackets. Yeah, they'll last a lifetime.
They're good company.
So this story follows a dude going around London killing blonde girls, but only on Tuesdays.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Only on Tuesdays.
Not good to be blonde on a Tuesday.
Yeah. So it's really a Jack the Ripper kind of thing, but only in a more modern way. Yeah. He also made his first cameo appearance. You know how he makes his cameo appearances in most of his films. This becomes a trademark of his, and so he does it for the first time in The Lodger. The film was a major success. Like, it was huge, and this was only like his third film. It's also a silent film. So
I gotta check this out. Yeah. I'm not familiar with them.
The British moviegoers and the critics were just like eating it up. They're like, "This is amazing." So he is off to a good start.
So he's like Rod Serling. He narrates. He writes weird crap.
Yeah, exactly. His next two films did so well that he became the highest paid director in England, making £13,000 a year in 1927, which was a fair amount of money. Yeah. In 1929, he directed what is considered to be the first British talkie movie. Now sound is coming in. Okay. So they're moving from silent films to sound. And this film was called Blackmail. And once again, it was a success in Britain. But strangely enough, it wasn't successful in the United States. Because... Well, but it was a different audience, and Americans had a hard time understanding the English accents, the strong English accents. Okay. It was like, they're like, we don't get it.
We need subtitles.
Yeah. So, but that'll change. That'll change. For the next 8 or 9 years, he stayed in England, making such classics as Sabotage, The 39 Steps, and The Lady Vanishes. Some of the films were being released in the United States, but under different titles, which I'm not quite sure what. Like Sabotage became The Woman Alone. I don't know why. Do Americans not know what the word sabotage means?
Maybe not.
Maybe
it's confusing,
So, but anyway, all this time he's making these English films, and he feels a little restrained. He wants to go to America. Like, he wants to be in Hollywood, where all the action is. Okay. So, 1939, Hitchcock and his wife and their daughter Pat sailed over to the United States.
Across the pond.
They crossed the pond, they took a train to Hollywood, and Hitchcock, who was already famous in the United States with his English films, signed with the famous American producer David O. Selznick.
Selznick, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
For a whopping $50,000 a movie.
Ooh, back then.
Yeah. Okay. This is 1939.
That's
a lot.
Sure.
That's a ton of money.
I love Selznick.
That's almost $1 million today.
Yeah.
Per movie.
Per movie.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, no, seriously. Amazing. So, he was looking forward to working with Hollywood stars. He said, I really want to mess with their appeal and alter their images. He wanted to take the good boy, good girl characters that they were known for and turn them into, like, murdering, crazy people, or people who are having mental breakdowns instead of being so, like, for prime example is James Stewart, right? One of my favorite actors. James Stewart, who had always been Mr., perfect, Mr. Handsome American, he puts him through hell in, like, pretty much all the movies that they work in together, right?
You see him unraveling.
Unraveling, essentially. And so it's really, he really does alter the perception of a lot of American actors.
He wanted them to be seen differently?
Yeah. And push them to, and boy did he push them. He pushed them all.
I've heard stories about Tippi Hedren.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So the first movie he worked on in Hollywood was Rebecca, written by Daphne du Maurier. And right from the beginning, Hitchcock and Selznick were clearly not right for one another. Like, clearly not. Selznick was famous for his, just outbursts of anger and getting everything that he wanted. And while Hitchcock was more of a down to, like, I don't want to have a fight. I don't like confrontation. It terrifies me. So they did not see eye to eye. And Hitchcock realized that if he wanted to keep this stay in Hollywood, he would have to listen to Selznick and essentially do whatever he wanted. So the first film, Rebecca, he doesn't consider his film. He's like, this is Selznick's film.
Yeah.
I'm just a name on the credits. He really, Selznick wanted to follow the book exactly, while Hitchcock was like, I want to do my own thing. Let's do this. And they just did not gel.
Okay.
Now at this time, Selznick had become so famous for his huge hit. Come on, you know what it is?
Huh?
What?
Oh, Gone with the Wind. I had to think for a minute. Yeah. I still think Nazis fought in World War I. Yeah, honestly.
No, it's okay. Gone with the Wind, right.
For people who can't see, because this is a podcast, she's pointing to my book.
Oh, yes, so the book up on the...
One of my favorites, and I have like a million Gone with the Wind dolls. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, crickets.
Like, huh?
What? What movie? I never saw it.
So, Selznick is the kind of guy who wants his actors glowing. He likes rich, velvety films. Yeah. Like, you can feel the velvet on them.
Just
like
Psycho with the blood. And
that's what Hitchcock wants, right?
I know, exactly.
Selznick wants, Vivian Leigh and, Clark Gable looking amazing. And,
with the blood going down the drain and,
Actually, it's Hershey syrup.
It's like apples and oranges. You wonder how they made a film at all.
Oh, yeah. And actually, when they first signed a contract, Hitchcock had signed a 7-year contract with Selznick.
Oh.
And originally their first movie was going to be the story of the Titanic. But Selznick had a hard time finding a boat that he could sink, so they scrapped it.
Wow.
Yeah. Very cool, right?
It was like a little boat in a tub.
Right, just like a little...
something, you would have thought that's something they could have figured out. Right. I can't find a boat to sink.
That's a problem.
I guess. All right.
So while this is all happening, Selznick actually is happy to kind of rent out Hitchcock to other independent producers to do movies
to get rid of them?
Yeah, a little, yeah. At the cost of other independent producers, paying for the rights to use Hitchcock. However, also at this time, the British were now at war with Germany. Okay, so now real Nazis. Right?
Okay,
all right.
Now I'm in the right war.
Yeah, we're in the right war.
Okay, just checking.
So World War II.
My war's confused.
The British are at war with the Nazis.
The British are coming. Wait, wrong war?
No.
Wrong
Once again,
war again.
Not the right war.
British people.
We gotta work on your history here.
Yeah.
So Hitchcock was being bashed by his fellow Brits back home in England because he stayed in Hollywood. He's like, I'm busy. I'm not going back over there.
Why would he?
His fellow Brits thought he should come back home and be a part of the war effort.
They didn't let him do anything originally. He was cleaning the latrines originally. What is he going back? Well, I think he'll give up a prospering career to go and clean the toilet back in England. Really?
Right, like I did in World War I.
Yeah, no.
So, the critiques from his comrades back home in Britain they hurt him.
Because they wanted to be in America too.
Right. And this is a man who, like I said, didn't like confrontation. One biographer said that just one harsh word or argument would have him depressed and anxious for the rest of the day.
No kidding.
Very
sensitive.
I mean, same. Like.
Oh yeah, really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll totally take things the wrong way. So.
Am I the only one like Scarlett who doesn't give a damn?
Yeah. I think you're pretty thick-skinned. I don't know how you do it.
Because I stopped giving a crap.
I wish I could be that way. I'm not.
I will thicken your skin. We will work on that.
Okay.
All
right. So his first...
Tell me I'm pretty. No.
You're beautiful.
Tell me I'm pretty.
Beautiful. So his first leading lady was Joan Fontaine, right? Mm-hmm. He used her in Rebecca, and again in the 1941 thriller Suspicion, which is the first of many films with a very handsome Cary Grant. He uses Cary Grant a lot, like in a lot of films.
Uh-huh.
And it is rumored that Cary Grant was like Hitchcock's ideal man. Like, he felt like that's how a man should be. Like, he wanted to be like Cary Grant.
Okay.
Which I know.
Debonair, handsome.
Yeah, very handsome.
Yeah, okay, I get that.
So he secretly longed to be like Grant. Okay. Grant was great and followed Hitch's standard direction of do nothing. Right?
I do nothing.
Right?
I can do nothing.
You would be a great leading lady for Hitchcock.
I'll just do nothing.
Do as little as possible.
I could do that.
So that it didn't appear like you were acting.
Is that like a method act?
Something like that.
Method? Just like
I don't know.
Don't make it look like you're acting.
Just make it seem like it's real.
Just make it don't think too much.
Movements and emotions he wanted natural, which also explains why sometimes he would like push his actors to the limit with just either by saying nasty things, starting rumors on set, nasty pranks. Like he did a lot of nasty pranks.
Don't pretend to be angry. I'm actually going to do things that are going to piss you off so you get angry.
Like he would flat out go, is this actor going to be working the next couple of days? Like, no. Okay, good. Because I need to punch. He needs to get punched hard in the face for this next scene. So if he's not working the next couple of days, he'll have time to heal. Like that kind of a thing. Like,
that's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think probably the most severe was the case of Tippi Hedren and the birds.
That's what I heard. I heard this story. Yeah.
Where for 5 days. There were like three guys who were just throwing live birds at her.
Yeah.
To get that bedroom scene upstairs.
Yeah.
Where she's just like getting bombarded by these things.
Like he would deliberate. They're not acting because they're genuinely terrified.
Yeah. Like she went on set one day and I guess the assistant director wouldn't even look. He's like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" But he wouldn't look at her face. And she's like, "What's the matter? What's wrong?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, the mechanic birds aren't working, so we're going to use live ones." So they're literally these guys with these heavy leather gloves are throwing these live birds at her. I mean, she's getting cut up. Like it's like for 5 days for filming this short sequence.
I don't understand that kind of putting people in danger.
Yeah, yeah. At the end of it, like she just like literally crashed on the ground and was crying. You know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like when she would speak later on about it, she was just like, "Oh, he was brilliant."
Well, women say the same thing about childbirth, no, it didn't hurt. I don't remember the pain, really. It's easy in 2020 hindsight or, to say, when you get reviews of how everybody loved the movie. Yeah. Oh, no, I wasn't scared. He was brilliant, Yeah. But when you're going through the whole being terrified and tormented.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd last like an hour with that guy.
His famous quote, he said, "All actors should be treated like cattle."
Oh, that's good. That's nice. Yeah. That's humane. That's, well, if you treat cattle humanely like I would, but okay.
Yeah. James Mason, who was an actor, said that to Hitchcock, actors were simply animated props. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, right? So they were like
animatronics.
Yeah, things that he needed to get his vision through. Yeah.
Okay, alrighty then.
But somehow, I mean, he always managed to get, with all the abuse, he always managed to get some of the best performances from these people.
Because they're genuinely terrified and upset.
Yeah.
There is no acting.
Yeah.
We're not acting, we're actually disturbed.
Yeah. It was really hard if you were one of Hitch's leading ladies. You pretty much had to be blonde. And be ready to be traumatized.
Okay, sign me up. Yeah, that's good. That sounds fun.
You'd have to bleach your hair.
I have to. Yeah, I got to become a blonde.
You do have to become blonde.
I'll
he also liked them tall. You're not really.
No, I can't change that. I'm a Lilliputian brunette. 2 strikes. Not gonna have. All right, so I'll just have to stay a petite brunette who's not being traumatized by animals.
Crazy
birds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I think that's better. Yeah.
Okay. One must do what one must do.
So he was famous for he didn't like to be behind the camera. He didn't like to look in the lens, actually. He liked to sit in front of the camera, just below it on the right-hand side, and just on the edge of the lens, like so that they pretty much getting a different perspective of every film. That was his thing.
Wow.
Now, there've been lots of talks about symbolism in his work, like a lot of symbolism, but he claimed that he didn't pay attention to any of that stuff. He was like, "Oh, it's just an accident that you keep seeing these things," right? He played down a lot of his.
Why? Why doesn't he just own it?
I don't know. So anyway,
Stephen King is honest about it. Like The Shining is about his battle with alcoholism, and why not just say this is about my fear or whatever? Because I guess he couldn't.
No, I don't think he wanted to talk about it.
He didn't want to talk about it. He's just going to keep it bottled up until he torments the next tall blonde.
Well, all of these films are his fantasies. What he wishes would happen in his own life.
He wishes a blonde lady would get tormented by birds.
There's a lot of, the way he treats most of the women in his films, you wonder.
Want to hear a joke?
Oh, okay.
Okay. No one's listening, it's just you and me. What's the difference between kinky and perverted?
I don't know.
Kinky, you use a feather. Perverted, you use the whole chicken.
Nice.
Is that funny? You could edit this out.
I would
edit
we're
that
totally
out.
keeping
That's
that.
just a joke, folks. All right, I don't know. That's my only bird humor. I have to think of another bird.
More bird. Yeah, I'll
have to work on my bird routine.
Keep thinking about it.
Okay.
All right. So his last film with Selznick is in 1947.
How many did they do?
Oh, well, they were together from 1939 until 47. So
how did they make it so long with such creative difference, like the Hatfields and the McCoys?
Yeah, I don't. It's
wow.
So it was that last film was The Paradigm Case, which I haven't seen that one.
No.
And it's really during the 1950s and 60s when he really comes into his own, and I think it's his best work is when he's not with Selznick. And good, he had a good contract with Warner Brothers and then later on Paramount, but he was pretty much able to do more or less whatever he wanted at this point. After he left Selznick, he can do what he wants, and that's when the shit gets good.
Oh, right.
That's when
Same thing with Serling. Once you don't have that monkey on your back, you can express yourself.
Do what you want.
Yeah.
So, this is when he gets his great movies like 1951, Strangers on a Train, Dial M for Murder, which is 1954. My personal favorite, Rear Window.
It's a good film.
Oh, also in 1954. So he's got two great films in 54, Dial M for Murder and Rear Window.
Yeah.
To Catch a Thief, Vertigo, these are all coming out in the 50s. He was super busy in the 50s because that's right about the time he starts his television series, Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's in 1955 that starts, and that was like unheard of for a movie director to stoop low to television.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Like, you didn't do that. And then to make it even more, I mean, he just blew it up by appearing on these things and narrating them, just like Serling, and he was funny too. Like, he was so funny when he would open up these things. I like this one. He comes in and he's like, he does his good evening.
Good evening.
He does.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he goes, "Of late, I have been weary of becoming a sex symbol. And so I've decided to return to television. I'll remind you that before I posed for that famous photograph in the centerfold of that magazine, I was known as a man of mystery and suspense. To re-establish my reputation as a man of intrigue, join me as I bring you this story. Notice that I do so fully clothed."
Jeez.
I mean, he was so funny. His humor was just great, and he just ran. I mean, he was so good at making fun of himself, and his celebrity just went through the roof. Like, he became the most famous. Like, he had been his name was known as a director, but now everybody knew his face.
Sure, he's in everybody's living room.
Everybody knew that silhouette, the famous silhouette that appears. Yeah. Like, he was, just the guy.
You don't think of him as having a sense of humor. I would have never thought that he could take a joke.
He was so funny. If you watch these introductions and things on these shows, he's so funny. It's always a good dry humor, British humor. And I love it. And you can see the humor in his films, too. They're also, like, really entertaining. And you kind of have to have a sixth sense of humor, which you do.
Which we do, yes.
And me. We both do.
Yeah.
So the show lasted for 10 seasons.
Okay.
Hitch didn't direct all of the episodes. Like, there was, a couple hundred episodes. They were really well received. He did about 18 or 19 of them.
Okay.
But still, he was really busy at this time during these almost 10 years. He's also doing other films like North by Northwest, right? And of course, the most famous Psycho.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, the TV series, the crew that was involved in that series became the crew involved in making Psycho. Instead of a major motion picture crew, he used the television crew to make Psycho.
Okay.
The film is his most famous film, of course. Psycho, it was a super low budget. It was below $1 million. In fact, it was like about $800,000 to make this film. Now, To Catch a Thief had been a $2.5 million movie, right? Most of his other films in the 50s were $2.5 million. And so was Vertigo, for that matter. It was also filmed in black and white. While he had been, the past few films had all been in color. He decided to go back to black and white for this film. The film would push the boundaries of what was allowed in cinema at the time.
Oh, sure.
As far as, on-screen violence, deviant behaviors.
A woman thief, the first, right? You don't see women, stealing money and getting in their car and driving away. And...
Sexuality, right? On-screen gore, right? The shower scene, of course, is probably the most famous. The screaming, the bad wig.
The stabbing.
Right.
I mean, come on.
The music.
Yeah.
And in fact... Hitchcock did not want music in that scene at first. He wanted to be silent, but the music, the composer was like, no, here, listen to this, and with that screeching violin, and Hitchcock was like, oh, and then doubled the guy's salary because it was that good. Wow. He was like that impressed, and he was like,
it's another iconic, like like the Twilight Zone thing. I mean, everybody knows when you hear that, You know what's coming. Janet Leigh's getting it in the shower. That's it for her.
Side note, it was chocolate syrup, Hershey's chocolate syrup. That was what you see draining into the. Yeah, it wasn't.
Can't tell. It's black and white.
I know, right? But apparently, the costume blood did not look as good as the Hershey's chocolate syrup.
And the eye scene. At the end where the eye scene,
because they go from the blood going down the drain to her eye. And it's like,
crazy,
yeah.
And then again with that twist ending.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because you think, the mother did it. The mother did it. You know. So he claimed that this was his first shocker film. Quote.
Okay.
He said it was intended to make people scream and to be terrified, but not to be taken too seriously. Like, he found it to be quite humorous. He thought the film was funny.
I don't think anybody thought that.
No, I don't think anybody thought it was
I remember my mother telling me, when they saw it in the theaters and stuff, people were horrified.
Yeah.
That's like the first time people saw that.
Everybody screaming, yeah.
I mean, that's just for that day when that came out.
Yeah.
Like when The Exorcist, people were fainting in the theater when The Exorcist came out.
Well, and that was another thing too. He had very strict regulations if you were going to see this film. Like, he actually told the theater owners that don't let people walk in there if they're coming in late. They have to see it all the way through. So he would actually, like, if you show up late, you can't get in.
That's a riot.
Yeah. You have to watch it from beginning to end.
Power control, really?
Yeah,
you missed 5 minutes, go home.
Nope, go home. You're late.
You can't get in?
Yeah.
In the theater. Really?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. All right. Did you have to be dressed a certain way? Or
No.
You couldn't get up to use the bathroom or
He didn't want you to miss any of it. No, he's like, you gotta see this whole thing.
There's rules to go see.
Don't worry about the fucking popcorn, watch the movie.
That's right. Wow. No bonbons. Sit down. Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
He blew this thing up. We have to remember that nobody wanted this film to be made. Nobody. Everyone's like, this is not a good idea. No. When the book came out, the Psycho books, everyone was like, oh, what are you doing? Why are you making that into a film? It's terrible, And he's the only one who really, really wanted to make this film. Like, he's like, this is a film that I want to watch. I have to make this film.
I wonder what Selznick would have said about that.
Jesus, no way.
Yeah.
So he actually remortgaged his house. He paid for this film out of his own pocket.
Wow, he was that determined to stand behind it.
He was like, this is gonna be my masterpiece.
He had the vision,
and it turns out it was his highest grossing film. It made $50 million at the box office. For a film that cost $800,000 to make. The only other film to come close to that in grossing box office was Rear Window, and that was $37 million. So
it's iconic. I mean, it's classic. It's tried to have been remade.
Yeah.
And
there's a whole franchise now of Psycho movies, and Psycho miniseries, and everything.
Yeah, nothing.
No, nothing.
I don't think anything compares to
it. He was nominated for Best Director 5 times, but he never won.
Oh,
which is, I'm like, what? Why?
Could beat out Hitchcock.
Yeah, really. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Now, of course, as we know, he lusted over his leading ladies, women who could never even come close to, because he had, he was considered himself like this fat, ugly kid. He loved Grace Kelly, right? He had her in several movies, and she's beautiful.
Why not?
Right?
Yeah.
You had, like I said, you have to be tall, blonde, and cool. I mean, you're cool.
Oh, gee, thank you.
You're definitely cool, but you're not tall or blonde. So
no, never been accused of being a tall blonde. No.
I mean, I'm tall, and I'm fake blonde, but I'm chubby and not necessarily cool.
Cool as anything.
No.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would.
So anyway, Tippi Hedren, right? We talked a little bit about her. She had been a model. He saw a commercial of her, I don't even remember what kind of commercial it was, but he was like, I need her in my movies, just because she was tall, blonde, and beautiful.
Okay.
So she had never acted before.
Oh.
Never.
That was her first film.
The Birds was the first film. And he signed her for a 7-year contract.
There's a woman I can torment. Yeah.
He practically beat the shit out of her.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. He also would pretty much ruled her life. Like, he told her who she could date, what she could eat, what she could drink, what she could wear off set. Like, he actually had costumers make clothing for her to wear off set.
How long did that last? For the duration of the film?
For 2 films. She was with him for 2 films.
To have that much control over a person?
Yeah.
That's not normal.
It got a little crazy, and then he kind of went overboard by proposing a sexual act with her, and that's when she was just like, nope, not gonna happen. So...
Where was the wife during this, makes you wonder, like...
His wife had always been pretty loyal to him and put up with him and his leading lady nonsense.
This goes a little bit more than that, don't you? You know, if my husband were to be telling another, what you could eat, where you could sit, what you could look at, it's a little controlling.
Everybody on set knew that he was obsessed with her, like everybody. Everyone's like, this, too. And she was just like, this is getting out of hand. So it was kind of the beginning of the end for him. This is like in the 60s here. This is when he kind of starts to go downhill, essentially.
Was he like that with other women, do you know?
Not to the extent that he was with
totally
Tippi.
Obsessed with her.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was a little obsessed with Grace Kelly, and even maybe Joan Fontaine a little bit.
A little overboard.
Yeah, but with Tippi it was something different.
He couldn't draw the line with her.
Yeah, he did.
Poor girl.
Yeah. Luckily she said no, and then I think he always regretted it. Like, he regretted his behavior in his later years. Now, he made a few other films in the next decade and a half of his life, but none as memorable as Birds or Psycho, any of those.
How do you top that?
Yeah, no, yeah.
That's it. That's the pinnacle.
That really kind of drove him into a depression, because he couldn't find the right subject matter after that.
Okay.
He had bad health problems, too, and he was drinking a lot in the end. He drank so much that I think it eventually wore down his kidneys, essentially.
He's a big eater, too.
Yeah.
I heard that. He would order, dinners and dinners.
Yeah,
and
like
dinners.
Steaks and ice cream.
Yeah.
And had
bottomless.
Tons of wine, and he was a little crazy.
Gluttonous,
So anyway, since he couldn't live out his fantasies through his films anymore, he just kind of went downhill.
Oh.
He was knighted towards the end of his life by Queen Elizabeth.
Okay.
And he did get sort of like some honorary awards later on.
Sir Hitch.
So what?
Sir Hitch.
Sir Hitch. Sir Hitch. Exactly.
You are knighted, Sir Hitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Arise, Sir Hitch.
He was terrified that the world was going to forget him. Just terrified, which, I mean, it makes no sense, because now he died in his Bel Air home, April 29th, 1980. He was 80 years old.
Okay.
But of course, he's not forgotten.
No,
right?
What are you kidding?
The term Hitchcockian
right,
exists.
It's in the OED.
The style of suspense
Yeah.
that people love to see in film, all because of Hitchcock.
Never forgotten.
Never forgotten. We never forget people here on All My Favorite People Are Dead.
No, not these guys.
Never.
Not these guys. Wow.
So cool.
Legends of film and TV.
Absolutely.
And they're still dead.
And they're dead.
But we remember them.
We absolutely remember them. We watch reruns of their stuff all the time.
Over and over again.
Especially this time of year.
Right. What would Halloween be without Psycho?
Well, right.
Well, the Birds.
The Birds.
I mean, I remember seeing that the first time going, what the hell?
Yeah.
Made a bird. I like birds. I like animals. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. It scared the shit out of me.
It does.
I remember that. I was like, oh my
It
God.
does, right?
I'm like looking over at my mom's parakeet in the cage going, don't you fucking move.
Cover the cage. Pull the cat.
Yeah. True. Do you have a favorite Hitchcock film?
It's got to be Psycho. It's got to be. I mean, I remember just, threatening people I live with like a cucumber, running after them. You do that. Stuff like that. My mother, whoever I was living with at the time, you run after them with a cucumber when they're least expected,
Yeah.
Yeah. it's classic. You know, when it turns around with that strobe light, with the skeleton, with the wig, you know, and all of that, and Martin Balsam with the blood that's falling down the stairs. You know, I'm like, that's iconic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Even now, it's still scary. It's, you know, when you think of the slasher and all the, you know, all the horrific films later on, Jason and Freddy and all that, there's still something about that black and white blood and the suspense and the drama that still keeps you on edge.
He said that he wanted a lot of the fear to be not so much on screen, but in the people's minds that were watching it. Like he's like their imagination. You can give them just a little bit, and their imaginations will run with it, and it's true.
Just like the Twilight Zone. That's something that I've always loved. Just a little bit of what the heck.
Yeah,
goes a long way.
Yeah, it's true.
All right.
Well, that was amazing.
We had fun.
It was super fun.
We'll do it again.
Absolutely, and again and again with the cats.
The cats. Oh no, he's sleeping.
One over is here, sleeping. Okay, he's left my box, so that's good.
He's on this box now.
I can pack up my stuff and
all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you very much for listening to us. If you're listening to us, anybody out there, dead or alive, we hope you're.
Shannon, I don't think that people are listening to us.
You never know.
Well, good. Yeah, you know, that's true. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We had fun.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Well, have a lovely Halloween, everybody.
Have a happy Halloween.
Yeah. And thanks for listening once again to All My Favorite People Are Dead.
All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. I'm saying all my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead.